Let's talk about some breakout Aggies in the 2024 season. This is college football, right? You lose a quarter of your team to graduation, NFL, or more now with the introduction of the transfer portal and the more constant use of it in subsequent years since its inception. So you lose a lot of players, and a lot of guys have to step up year after year. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys about 10 names for players to watch out for this fall in Kyle Field. Now keep in mind, not every player on this list is going to hit. I'm not saying all whatever number of guys I'm going to list right here are going to go be superstars this year for Texas A&M. But some of them will hit, and some of them are more obvious than others. So I've kind of segmented this into two sections. The first section will be some more, I guess, shots. Not as likely to pan out, but still fairly likely for some of these guys. There are some more off-the-wall players, some more surefire things. The second half of the video, it's less than half, the last portion of the video, we're going to focus on some guys that we know have big, important roles, but I still think that we could get more out of them this season. So let's get right into it, starting with Trey Watson out of Fresno State. It's no secret that Donovan Green is part of the future of Texas A&M. He is, however, coming off of an ACL. That is a significant injury. We've heard Mike Elko talk about how confidence is going to have to be reinstilled into that knee, into his playing style. I don't know if we get peak Donovan Green throughout the first half of this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not the starter game one. I would be surprised if he doesn't go back into form by the home stretch of the year, but early in the year, Trey Watson is going to be the main receiving threat for this offense in the tight end position, I believe. Huge target, 6'5", coming out of Fresno State. He was a safety valve. He was used in RPOs. He was a very effective middle-of-the-field catcher, catching balls in traffic over DBs, over linebackers at times. Maybe not the most explosive athlete, maybe not the fastest guy, but just huge, good route runner, smart player, good hands. You're going to see him a lot. And I think he's going to be really, really important for this team's early year success. We hope we get the best out of him. He sounded really good in his practice presser the other day. Another one, and this is one we're also banking on, Albert Regis. You know, you talk about Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, Nick Scorton all the time. You talk about DJ Hicks, but you often forget to mention Albert Regis when previewing this defensive line, and he is going to play a very important role for this team starting at nose. This D-line has some really good athletes, but it doesn't really have a true run clogger in the middle. Shamar Turner is going to be playing defensive tackle this year. We know he's a versatile kind of a player, maybe a hybrid build. He's put on weight, but is he a nose? I don't know about that. You're going to need someone to step up, and I think Albert Regis is the perfect build to work on this line. Plus, he's shown effective play before. My favorite attribute about him, well, two things. First of all, he's a squatty player. He can get under the offensive lineman. The big, tall offensive lineman in the SEC, 6'2", 310. He's leaned up a little bit, gotten more athletic. But he has a tremendous motor. He has a knack for fighting through the whistle, fighting through blocks. And I think he can play a really important role next to that big trio as a starter on this defensive line. Right now, I think he's the starter game one. Who knows what happens down the road, but regardless, he plays a huge role on this team. I think people are going to learn his name this year now that he's stepping into a major role with McKinley Jackson, Isaiah Rakes, and Walter Nolan all out of the program. Here's another breakout candidate. And I said this one before the injury. I'm not just saying this in hindsight. I had this on my list before Ruben Owens went down, but Amari Daniels. Y'all must have forgot. I think people forget how many effective plays Amari Daniels has had in his college career, getting big runs, pushing people forward. He's able to dive forward and gain extra yards at the point of contact. But people think about his lack of maybe consistency. But I think with effective O-line play, he has some nice open field speed, and he's put on 10 pounds this offseason. I think he could be used more down to down this year, and he's going to have to be with a thin running back room now. So it's LeVeon Moss, Amari Daniels, E.J. Smith. I think there's a world where Amari Daniels gets around 900 all-purpose yards this year. And last year, also in a committee role, with a lackluster offense and a bad offensive line, he put up over 600 all-purpose yards. So I think there's a world where he gets to 800-900 yards this year, pass, receiving, and rushing. And I think people are kind of overlooking him, even though he's a very important piece that you're very glad to have right now. So Amari Daniels, breakout player this year. I think we're going to be very happy with his results this season in Colin Klein's offense. Back to the defense. Ryland Kennedy. Now, there are 3 data points to suggest that Ryland Kennedy is about to be an absolute breakout third down stud this season on passing plays. First of all, he was very productive in the bowl game, played his best game of the year late last season. glimpses of practice where he looks like he's matured into a man in his sophomore year. He's gone from 210 pounds to 240 pounds from high school to his sophomore year of college. Big growth, looks buff, looks strong. But the main kicker on this whole deal is that Jay Bateman straight up told us that he's going to play a role this season. So I think he has a chance to surpass Silla and Eni White as kind of that second edge defender off the bench behind Cassius Howell. Maybe they're kind of, swappable. Maybe you use them both interchangeably, because I think he can bring that level of play, and I think he might be the edge defender of this room's future. So big year for Ryland Kennedy ahead, I predict. Another one that we're familiar with, Dalton Brooks. Dalton Brooks played sporadically last season at nickel, had some productive moments, but really played his best game when he moved to safety in the bowl game, got the interception. Good safety play. I mean, there was still an issue with the corners in the bowl game. We were getting mossed by Oklahoma State's receivers, but I don't think it was really the safety's fault. Physical player. He says he's up to 200 pounds now. Just a player that's holding off the other DBs that have entered the room. You add Trey Jones, Marcus Radcliffe, you add Jaden Hill. These are all guys that can play nickel and safety, but it sounds like Dalton Brooks is holding his own against this influx of upperclassmen players. I think that's a testament to his work ethic and just how good he is. So I think we have a big year of Dalton Brooks next to Bryce Anderson starting at safety. That's an early prediction. Of course, things could go multiple ways with how many bodies you have in that room. But keep in mind, Mike Elko was complimenting the safety room as a team strength before some of those guys came in spring. And that's with Dalton Brooks and Bryce Anderson as your main two safeties. And Jared Kerr, you can throw him in there too. Big year for Dalton Brooks, I predict. Now, this one I almost threw into the formality section of this list. Like I said, there's another portion of this list I'll get to in a minute that are players that we almost expect it from, but we can see a leap within that expected level of play. Shamar Stewart. I could just say his name and move on, but by now it's well documented. He's grown, he's matured, he's gained weight, yet looks more chiseled. And at this point, is it even a breakout? I mean, it's almost expected, but we do need to see him take that step. We've talked about it. Last year, we saw him just mere steps away from sacks and tackles for losses, running all over the place in opponents' backfields, getting better and better as the year progressed. But there are two things I think can make him take that next step. First of all, just his natural maturity and progression. Actually, three things now that I'm thinking about it. So first of all, natural maturity, progression. Like I said, his body has matured. It's junior year. He's an upperclassman now. Huge. Mike Elko's offense, more four-down linemen, more, I think, I like Mike Elko's third down philosophy more than DJ Durkin's, go figure. I didn't like the three-man front, drop back and, hope for a coverage sack that he equipped most of the time. I like how Mike Elko brings a lot of guys to the line of scrimmage on third down scenarios. Hard to detect who's blitzing, who's coming. And I think that Elko scheme can help Shamar Stewart a lot. But perhaps the most impactful thing is that at the other defensive end, you have Nick Scorton. So first of all, Nick Scorton will draw attention. But second of all, that pocket's going to be a mess on passing plays. Fadil Diggs he was a solid player, maybe better at run defense as a defensive end than as a true pass rusher at defensive end for a defensive end. You get the full package with Nick Scorton, and that's on the other side of the line of scrimmage opposing Shamar Stewart. So Shamar Stewart's going to have better angles, better havoc in the backfield, just more opportunity to get after it. And I think, you look at Shamar Turner and Nick Scorton as kind of the showcase players on this defense. I think that just opens the door for Shamar Stewart to make a name for himself. There is first-round potential in next year's draft for Shamar Stewart. It's on the table. Can he achieve that high? I don't know if he gets that high, but I think, he becomes a first half of the draft player for next year. I think that's pretty safe. I don't know if it's safe to say, but I think it's a pretty solid prediction to say it. But first round upside. We know this at this point. It's on the table. And here's a fun one, guys. Terry Bussey. I think he plays, guys. He's listed as a DB. He's been practicing with the DBs. Rumblings that he's practicing more on the offensive side of the ball now. And no, not at running back. That's not going to happen. I don't think you can throw a true freshman who's been practicing DB, who's not really a running back build, just at running back full time. But I think he gets looks. I think he gets certain formations and plays where he's going to get the ball in his hand in space, whether it's at receiver, maybe it's wide receiver motion. Maybe they do put him in the backfield every now and then for some screen-type plays. They're going to try to get him in open field. He has the speed. He has the elusiveness. He's explosive in the open field. And this is an offense that kind of has some solid pieces all around, but not a bunch of true home run threats. Maybe Moose, Reuben Owens was one of those, and now we know he went down. Maybe Amari Daniels and Moss can be that at times. but you really need some burners and some guys that can just make stuff happen. I think Terry Bussey fits that mold perfectly. Of course, he's super young, but I think they're going to use him at least sporadically, and I think he's going to return some kicks. So Terry Bussey, he's going to have to be used this year, I believe. I believe you need that explosiveness coming from Bussey. All right. That was my list of guys who are looking to take big leaps. They're looking to make a name for themselves this season. Now we're going to get into a few guys that are established, but still, I believe, have a leap in the chamber that can even make themselves that much more of a commodity. Bryce Anderson, moving from nickel to safety, his natural position. I'm not sure if he's going to play free or strong safety, but he's going to be out in coverage more so than at the line of scrimmage this season. He's leaned up a little bit, and this is, like I said, his natural position. I think we're going to see the best we've seen out of Bryce Anderson. Can he play himself into a draftable position this season? I think we're going to be really happy with the secondary this year, and I think Bryce Anderson is the quarterback of this secondary. He's the leader. He's setting the tone in practice. I think Bryce is the man, and I think the best is yet to come for Bryce Anderson. I feel pretty good about that. Another one, formality, he's going to be the starter, LeVeon Moss. If he stays healthy, I think he's a 1,000-plus yard back pretty easily in Colin Klein's offense. This offense is going to run to set up the pass. You're going to see more gap scheme running. You're going to see players get in space more often. You're going to see LeVeon Moss get screens. You're going to see him with a lot of opportunity this season and a lot of reps with Ruben Owens, unfortunately, going down for the year. So I think we know somewhat what we have with LeVeon, but if he puts it together consistently and stays on the field the whole season, big year ahead for LeVeon. I mean, 1,000 yards might be modest when you're predicting what he could be if he's healthy game to game. He has the power, the explosiveness. He has great acceleration, underrated speed. If he can get a little bit more catch passing ability and more looks there too, I think that even takes him higher. Big year potentially for LeVeon Moss and Amari Daniels. It could be a good duo even without Ruben Owens. I know you lose that big home run threat, but these two guys are really solid. Another one that we know about who's going to play, going to start game one, Noah Thomas. Almost the same dialogue as LeVeon Moss. Can he find consistency? Can he stay healthy? If he does, Noah Thomas could be an all-SEC type of receiver. He could be a touchdown machine. He could be a red zone menace. And we saw in the spring game, he could be even more than that because they used him in end-arounds, RPOs. They got him in motion. They want to use him in a lot of different ways. And I think he's a very underrated athlete. We've talked about it on this channel a lot. With the ball in his hands, he has some wiggle. He has some moves. And he's huge, but he's also pretty fast for his size. He's 6'6", but he doesn't sacrifice any speed for that size. It's a really impressive player, but he has to find consistency and stay healthy. Same thing as LeVeon Moss. DJ Hicks. DJ Hicks is going to play a lot, guys. I don't think he's the play one starter, the series one starter for the defense, but I think he's going to get a good share of reps this year. We saw glimpses last year of what he can be, just a very active, defensive tackle. Very much a hybrid player in the similar vein as Shamar Turner, but he's going to be playing tackle primarily this year. I want to see some better run-stop capability from him, and maybe strengthening and growth this offseason can help him with that. But as far as getting in the backfield and just creating havoc, I think there's a huge world of possibilities for DJ Hicks this year. Obviously a 5-star talent, 6'4", 300 pounds. Huge athletic player, really, really active player. I hope we see the best out of him this season. And finally, we got to conclude with the man, Conor Wigman. And I think it's somewhat well documented what his skill set is. I think he's our best skill position player this year on offense. If he stays healthy, he will break out. If he is able to play the full season and there's no hiccups early in the year, coming back from an injury, confidence stuff-wise, and it might take a couple of reps for him to get back into his flow, but we know what Conor Wigman has. It's the quick release. It's the footwork. It's the accuracy. It's the timing. It's the anticipation. It's the ability to field pressure, the ability to improvise if needed. He has it all, man. And if he's healthy, it's a big year for Conor Wigman. Huge year. Potentially the most impactful player on this team. But guys, that is my breakout players list, starting with the more, shots, off-the-wall players, ending with some more surefire commodities that still could take a big leap. Who did I miss? Do you have any guys you would want to throw into this bucket of guys that could step up? Even if it's a well-known commodity, just let me know if I missed anybody. But guys, I'll see you in the next video. It's going to be one where we do SEC win totals for every team in the conference. We'll be dropping that in a couple days. I'll see you then. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I'm going to keep putting stuff out throughout the season. Thank you, guys. Gig 'em.